Hey friends, welcome to day one of our Advent stitch along. Today we are going to be working on these left clouds. So you should have ecru tapestry floss. If you don't, you might be using the Anchor brand. You might be using just regular 6-strand floss. All that is perfectly fine. If you are using the more 6-strand floss, it probably is going to take you a little bit longer just because this is so fluffy. And this is not. So just a warning, heads up. I would say if you are using a 6-strand floss, I would keep the full 6 strands. Don't split your floss or anything. If you don't know what I'm even talking about, don't worry about it. And then you would do French knot. And this right now, I'm looking at my piece of paper, is just one twist using this tapestry wool. So I would probably, with a 6-strand, I would maybe do anywhere between 3 and 4 twist to try and help, not 4 is probably too thick. I'd go with 3 twists to kind of help still create the same illusion of a fluffy cloud. Also, hopefully you won't be using this color, but this is what a 6-strand floss looks like. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you always want to pull from the number end of your floss, and we're going to pull 1 arm length. So keeping this at your chest, and then pull your arm all the way out until it's fully extended. And then you're going to grab a pair of scissors and you're going to cut. For this side, you're going to use more of that later. Tie a knot at one end of the floss. Try and get it as close to the end as you can. Cut off any excess. And then you're going to make sure you have your tapestry needle. That's the needle with the bigger eye. And overall, it just looks a little fatter. It's even slightly duller than the embroidery needle. And you're going to thread your needle. It might be a little difficult just because it is so fluffy. I like calling this floss fluffy. It's my fluffy floss. If you were a part of the stitch along last year, you know we call this the diva floss, so maybe this needs to be the fluffy floss. Okay, so thread your needle and you're going to pull it about this far over on this side. So your needle's ready, you're ready to stitch. I'm going to pull this up a little bit, and I'm going to be using a hoop stand, and I'll link this below every time people have questions because they love this thing, and it really does make making French knots a lot easier, but not necessary, but easier. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is a French knot, 1 twist using our floss here, unless, as I stated earlier, you have something different. If you have the Anchor brand and it's still this same fluffy floss, you're still gonna do the same. It's just your color might be slightly different. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this cloud right here because that one's covered up at the moment. And what we wanna first do is outline our clouds, and then we will fill in the middle. So I'm gonna start right here in this little corner. I'm going to come up through the back, and this needle is a little bit harder to get through the floss, or get through the fabric, sorry, but don't be scared to push it through. All right, you're going to hold your floss with your left hand, put your right hand with the needle underneath it. See how it's kind of coming over like this? Put over, twist 1 time. So see how it's kind of twisted around my needle? I'm then going to put my needle right back down in front of it, continuing to hold with my left hand tight, and then I'm going to pull my needle through. I'm continuing to hold with that left hand. Don't let go. And then as it gets closer, you can kind of use your finger to hold it tight. And then once you get just a little bit closer, slip your finger out and pull all the way through. Now, that's a French knot. It takes a little bit of practice. Don't be afraid. If you need to practice on like the edges over here or something, you can do that. Might be a little hard because it's not pulled taut. If you have some extra fabric laying around in a hoop, you can practice there. These are a little bit harder to take out if something goes wrong. You kind of just have to nip it nip it in the bud, because there's no way of undoing the knot. It's in there. It's good. So if you feel like you need to take a few minutes to practice, practice. It's okay. Now, if you notice, I like to come up on this gray line and then I'm coming forward just a little bit. I'm not going in the same hole. I'm just going in just, in this instance being on the top, I'm going just below it just a little. So let me see if I can show you a little bit closer. It's a little harder for me because I can't get my head as close to my piece. So I'm coming up right next to my previous knot right here. Ooh, earthquake. Pull that through. And you're pulling it all the way through, so there's no excess floss on the back. Hold it. Sorry. Hold it here on the left with your hand taut. Twist. Put straight down right in front of it. Continue to hold tight with your left hand. As it gets closer, you can use your finger and pull through. Okay, the reason you want to hold it tight is so that your knot is not going to be loose and lumpy and all over the place. So now we're just going to keep going. I'm gonna go back up. Oh, you know what, guys? I can zoom in with keeping my camera higher. Y'all, it's apparently been a while since I've done a stitch along. The last one was in Easter, so here I am having to record myself and learn all the ins and outs all over again. So we're going to continue to go all the way around. And you don't have to be as close to that previous knot as possible because these French knots are a little fluffy. They're going to kind of take up more space than you realize. So I'm not like coming up right on top of it. I'm coming up a little bit, giving it a little bit of breathing room. Now, if your preference is to work in the cloud and then out, you can do that. But I feel like this helps keep the shape of the cloud better. And then you can fill it in. With this stand, my piece is forced to stay in one place and not move. But as I start getting around to these bottom stitches, I might want to pull my hoop off of my stand and turn it upside down, because it is a little easier to come, at least for me personally, it's easier to come up, wrap my floss and go down below rather than coming up, wrap my floss and going above, if that makes sense, because it will change kind of the direction you're not looking. Okay, so we finished our outline, and if your arm length is anywhere close to mine, which might not be, I'm only 5'1", you are close to running out of floss. And French knots can be pretty difficult when you start having shorter floss lengths. So I'm going to show you how to tie it off, and then you can do it as I did earlier. You pull another arm length of string, tie one end off, you start your needle again. So with a French knot, there's all these little hoops in the back, little stitches that you can fit your needle under. So you're going to grab one that's close to where you're leaving off, put your needle under it, pull it through. You'll have kind of a little hole right there, and then you're going to bring your needle through the back and make a knot. Now, apparently, if you do cross stitch, this is not the way they like to finish their stitches in the back. So if you have another method where you want to tie it off, that's fine, as long as you don't leave too much extra string in the back, because then that's going to interfere with backing the hoop. So I'm gonna toss this string, get another arm length, ooh. Prepare my needle again. And kind of twist the wool floss a little bit to get it through that hole. Okay, so now we're gonna start filling in our cloud. It doesn't really matter where you start. I prefer to kind of start on one side and just work my way left, or work my way right, and not just kind of like anywhere, everywhere, going crazy. So I'm gonna start, let you zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna start over here in this corner. And if any of your knots are kind of going in a direction that you don't love, you can wiggle them a little bit. Like if one kind of got stuck in front of another, you can kind of fluff them out a little bit. Now, I don't know what this would look like with 2 twists. Like if you go 1, 2, it might be even fluffier, but I don't know if you would run out of the floss, because this uses quite a bit of floss. Just the regular method I'm using. Uh-oh, do I have something going on in the back? I have something going on in the back. I didn't, look at me, I didn't pull all the way through. So I'm going to, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna think about it. Okay, this is where French knots, they truly get tricky. And because this is just one string, it's not 6 strands, it makes it even harder. I'm gonna just tie off with that. Honestly, I probably could have cut that and not done anything with it, because there's a knot in the front. It's not going to loosen anything in the front. Like a stitch isn't going to just come out. So sometimes when I do cut off a French knot, like if there's one that I'm like, oh, that's a really ugly knot, and I cut it out, I just cut it out and leave it and don't worry about anything else around it. Because I trust that the knot is going to keep it secure in place and it's not going to get all loose. Now, the closer you make these stitches, the tighter the cloud's going to look, but obviously you don't want to leave any fabric to be seen underneath. So kind of make your own judgment call there. This, folks, is why you don't try and go. You probably saw I was trying so hard to get those last few stitches with the floss I had, but I knew it was getting too short, and that's what happened. I can probably pull, maybe, if I can figure out where it's coming from. So that one. No, it's not that one. There we go. Okay. Now I still have to thread my needle to tie it off. This is a good time to say, if you are going to be in a situation like I am and you need to get more floss to finish up this cloud, I'm gonna have to cut it. This pregnant woman is not doing well sitting on a stool to record this video. Okay, cut that. tapestry wool's frayed a little. Okay. I'm gonna tie off in the back. And even by waiting until it got this short, it makes it tying off more harder. Learn from my lesson, guys. Don't wait this long. But the more you embroider, the more you'll learn. It's almost like a game. How far can I go until I need more floss? Okay, what I was saying is, if like you're like me in this situation and you need to get more floss and you're like, do I just get enough for that little spot, or do I pull a whole arm length? Go ahead, pull a whole arm length. And then what you can do is you can either, once you finish stitching the 2 or 3 spots that you have, or however many you have, you can either tie off and keep using that excess, like tie off, cut as close to the knot as possible, and then retie the bottom, keep using that floss. Or you can just drag your needle from behind to the next cloud. So that means that you would have a line going from this cloud to this one, wherever it's at. But that's not a big deal. It's a very light colored floss. It's not going to show through. That's why we have the 2 pieces of fabric. Sorry, I'm off camera trying to thread my needle. Okay. I personally don't love going from one location to another like that. Depending on what it is, I will for text, but I don't really love doing that for things like this, but you're more than welcome to do so. So I've got just maybe 2 or 3 little French knots left here. Feel free to use the dull side of your needle and just kind of poke your knots around. Make sure it's all filled in. There's no spots that you just can't see. Looks like I have one maybe right there. Okay, so what I'm personally going to do now, what you could do if you want, you can now just go straight up over here and start stitching. I'm going to go ahead and tie off my piece I have. And then cut close to the knot, not too close. I'm going to retie this bottom end. Cut any excess, and I am ready to start stitching my next cloud. So you now can take the knowledge that you have and finish these last 2 clouds. These other 2 are a little bit smaller than this one, so it shouldn't take you as long. But if you have any questions, ask in the Facebook group. Send me an email if you're not in the Facebook group. But best of luck. You've got this, and make sure to post your progress when you are done.